We now move on to something that's near and dear to almost all of us sitting here in the audience, except for Ms. Powers here. She is not affected by this, and that is presbyopia. It's the bane of our existence, but it's more than a cosmetic issue. It actually is a functional issue. It affects quality of life. It affects productivity in the workplace. It affects safety for many people in occupations. And we have some new opportunities to treat presbyopia. And John Berdahl is going to bring out a panel to talk about some of these great new options. John Berdahl, come on out. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Boy, it is great to be back and see all the faces that we care about and try to advance our beloved profession. This is our panel, and it needs no introduction, and in the sake of time, they are going to get no introduction. Presbyopia is probably the largest market in the world. Over 2 billion people or so suffer from presbyopia, and 120 million just here in the United States. We're all excited to talk about this, and it seems like there's a confluence of tailwinds with all of the companies just on the precipice of bringing these technologies to market. So panelists, are you ready? Preeya?
Please don't put me in this age category.
Yeah, you're a long way away. Okay, first, from Allergan, Michael Robinson, and we're gonna be moving quick, folks, to try and stay on time because we've got 6 companies over the span of 40 minutes, so here we go.
Yeah, thank you very much for the organizers for the opportunity to present. I will talk about the optimized pilocarpine formulation to treat presbyopia, since I often get questions about the formulation. All pilocarpine formulations are stored at a low pH to maintain drug stability. The lactone ring, which is a cyclic ester, is susceptible to hydrolysis at a physiologic pH. The lactone ring breaks and you get pilocarpic acid, which is pharmacologically inactive. Therefore, to make a pilocarpine stable, in all aqueous formulations, it needs to be at a low pH around 4, which leads to 2 problems. One, the ocular bioavailability of common generic versions of pilocarpine used for glaucoma is low. It's around 1 to 3%, given that most of the drug in the tear film is in a protonated or ionized form that poorly crosses the cornea. Problem number 2, when an acidic drop is placed on the eye, can cause stinging, and that's a tolerability issue. In the phase 2 trials, we investigated 16 different formulations to develop one that, as soon as it hits the ocular surface, it rapidly adjusts to the pH of about 7 to have the majority of the pilocarpine in a non-ionized form to improve bioavailability and improve tolerability. We developed an in vitro model to assess the speed at which our formulation allows the pH to immediately equilibrate to the physiologic pH on the ocular surface. In blue on the figure, you can see the rapid increase in the pH, about 7, on the ocular surface after instilling the optimized formulation. In green is the generic pilo, where the pH on the ocular surface stays low. You see on the left with generic pilocarpine that the protonated drug poorly crosses the cornea at a low pH. On the right, rapid equilibrium to the ocular surface pH with our formulation can improve ocular bioavailability and tolerability. So why does pH matter? From a presbyope's viewpoint and the ability to read. This figure demonstrates in patients that the percent pupil size reduction using pilo at a physiologic pH around 7 is much more rapid compared to a pH of 4. The improved bioavailability essentially translates to faster pupil size reduction, and people read quicker. In a phase 2 study, we evaluated 3 concentrations of pilo, and some of the concentrations were 3-line near vision gainers out to 8 hours. Computational modeling demonstrated that a pilo concentration of 1.25% was ideal in our proprietary vehicle, and this was advanced to phase 3 trials. We conducted a separate tolerability study On the left is a VAS scale evaluating ocular discomfort. On the right, evaluating vision blur. Scores were considerably better with the optimized formulation. In summary, our formulation with its proprietary vehicle rapidly adjusts to the ocular surface pH to improve drug bioavailability for rapid onset, longer duration, and improved tolerability compared with the generic. The Gemini 1 phase 3 data, we have 5 abstracts on Sunday morning that we will be presenting. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael. So panelists, feel free to shout out questions as you have them, but Michael, I think it's really appropriate that you went first because it's likely that you will be going first in the marketplace. And how do you view Allergan, who's a company that's proven that they can create new categories? What do you feel like is your responsibility to this category, not just your product?
Yeah, it is true. We have filed an NDA. The PDUFA date is in December of this year. And yeah, Allergan has a long history of firsts, and this would be a first in the category. I think being first to market is important, but being first to market with a solid formulation, with solid efficacy data and solid safety, I think is very important.
And panelists, same question to you. You know, these large companies, when they're first, how do we as doctors or investors need these companies to create a viable commercial situation where the technology can gain a foothold?
I think, first of all, to just not overpromise, setting expectations just like we do surgically. And this is going to be an amazing category, and I actually am excited that you're first because I know you'll be handling it with a lot of responsibility. And I think a new category, even in the approval process, we keep talking about safety and efficacy, but this tolerability, I appreciate you lifting it up because I think for the patients that's going to be very important also.
Yeah, and I think as a big fan of new category innovations, which is at Interwest, that's basically what we always try to invest in. There are some big opportunities to get there first, but there's challenges of developing the market. And the big companies have more resources and are better positioned, but oftentimes they don't identify the market until it's proven by smaller companies like yourself. In this case, Allergan is being quite visionary and going very early in this. I'm super excited about this. Is one of the biggest markets, to John's point, that that's ever existed. So it's not like one player is going to win the whole thing, but there's probably not going to be 10 companies that are successful. So probably a few could develop the market together, and it might be a big company and a small company or some kind of synergies that allow the commercialization to go faster than it would normally go in a new category.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
All right, thank you, everyone.
All right, next, Michael Rowe from Eyenovia.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for having us here today. I have to first share some forward-looking statements, so I'll flash those on the screen. And for those of you who are not familiar with Eyenovia, we're an ophthalmic pharmaceutical company with 3 products in late-stage development, one of which has an NDA date of October 28th. That's our mid-combi product. The reason I'm sharing this at this meeting is because all 3 of these use the same technology behind them to use our multi-array print technology to use 1/5 the dose of a standard eye drop to increase the therapeutic index of drugs. Here's a patient that we know of, and as you can see, well, you can't see. There we go. She's having trouble putting in eye drops, and if you can't put the eye drops in, they don't work. So one of the things we're trying to do is to fix this, to make it easier and to make it more tolerable for patients. And here we have, this is the actual dispenser used in our pilocarpine studies for presbyopia, and you can see the mist right there. That's delivering about 8 microliters, about 1/5 the standard drop, and I'll share with you what that means. So what that means is, compared to a standard eye dropper, you can make things much more tolerable and more safe and more convenient for patients. Here you can see the difference between using an eyedropper bottle and our technology with a glaucoma drug. We don't have a protruding tip on there, so there's less of a risk of cross-contamination, and we make it much easier for people to comply with because you can take it horizontally. There's also safety benefits you can get by using our technology. This is one study we did showing differences in systemic levels between a standard eye drop in the middle there and our technology on the right. And we can also demonstrate benefit in compliance. This is in our myopia trial with Bausch. The first 28 children between the ages of 6 and 13, they don't know that their compliance is being measured, but our dispenser has technology on board that allows us to see exactly when they use it. And here you can see that their compliance on average is around 85%, compared with about 50% historically for these patients. So what's behind the technology? This is our Optejet dispenser. It's basically a micro inkjet printer. And so what it enables you to do is to take these drugs, and instead of tilting your head back and flooding your eye, you can coat the cornea precisely with 8 microliters and increase the therapeutic index by maintaining efficacy, and we've demonstrated that in multiple phase 3 studies, and increasing tolerability and safety. And if you look at the bottom right of the image, you can see how exactly it works. There's a cartridge there which has the drug in it, and then a more durable dispenser. And this is categorized by the FDA as a drug. They consider this a container closure system. And we know this because we're 98 days away from our PDUFA for our first product, which uses the same technology. So I want to talk a little bit about the product profile for Microline, our entry in presbyopia. We wanted to build something that was effective at restoring functional vision, the ability to read a menu or a cell phone. We wanted it to be used on an as-needed basis. We wanted rapid onset of action, ease of administration, and very importantly, and I heard it from the panel, a very low incidence of side effect, particularly brow ache, which we know comes with pilocarpine. Because as a lifestyle drug, the way we see this and the patients see this, they don't want to trade off the risk of side effects for that. And here she is again. Lights it up, takes a look at the blue light, and in it goes. Now, we've done some market research and we've done focus groups with presbyopia patients, which helped us come up with this profile. One of the first things they told us is they didn't really want to trade off the use of their eyeglasses for a chronic medication. They would prefer to have control over when to use that medication, and preferably that they could use it on demand. They were very adamant about they really didn't want the risk of headache, and once the headache risk was up around 20%, almost all of them said that would deter them from using a drug like this. And they wanted an easier way to put those drops in, which is what the Optejet system does. Our Vision 1 study that we recently completed was a double-masked, placebo-controlled crossover study. We tested 2 different doses of pilocarpine with placebo, with about 80 to 90 patients here, and the primary endpoint, binocular distance-corrected near visual acuity under mesopic lighting conditions, and that's very important. Mesopic is the kind of conditions, as you all know, that you would have in a restaurant when you're trying to read a menu, as opposed to photopic, which is basically trying to read something outdoors, which is much easier. We previously announced that our first phase 3 trial achieved the primary endpoint. It was a statistically significant proportion of subjects in the treatment arm met the endpoint of 3 lines or more improvement. It was very well tolerated. We saw only very mild adverse events. Specifically, we saw hyperemia on installation that disappeared a few seconds later, and less than 3% brow ache in use, which was brow ache or headache, which was great. And then we gave a survey to participants in the study when they exited, giving them a price point for this and how it might work, and 71% of them reported strong interest in using the product should it become available. And we see this product as a companion to glasses, not a replacement, for use when glasses are inconvenient. So that is the product we have. We're very excited about it, and I hope I've shared with you how we see this a little bit differently as a product that's truly lifestyle, a companion to eyeglasses, and something that we would see being offered to patients at the same time they come in for that first visit. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael, and I think that we've got time for one quick question. Preeya, of course we care about efficacy, we care about safety, but how important is ease of use going to be for these patients?
Well, I think that a lot of us think of presbyopia as a lifestyle disease, and anytime we, first take that approach, I think ease of use is paramount. And we know that with patients that have severe disease like glaucoma, compliance is an issue. And so, patients will be quick to judge, and if they can't use it easily, and if they feel like they have to take it too often, or, they're just a little bit more fickle. So I do think that's very important.
Very good. Thank you so much, Michael. Next up, from LENZ Therapeutics, we've got F. Schimmelpennink. Thanks, F, for being here.
Thank you, John. Thanks for the intro. And for those counting, that is indeed 15 letters in my last name, so that's an eye test by itself. Very excited to be here. We came out of stealth with LENZ just about a month or so ago, following a 47 million Series A led by Versant and RA Capital, which I think underlines how interesting this market is and how excited we are about our product. This should work now. Yeah. So 2 things that are very important about these type of products, and as you can see there, our lead product is a aceclidine-based eye drop, which we feel has the opportunity to be a best-in-class drug. And there's 2 mechanisms, as I've mentioned, that are important to keep in mind when we evaluate products like these. One, obviously, is the one that we want, which is triggering the iris sphincter, which in turn then leads to a small pupil, which leads to improved near vision. There's a key one that you really want to avoid, which is overstimulation of the ciliary muscle, because that causes myopic shift, which obviously leads to refractive change, as well as to all the side effects like headaches that we are familiar with. So I'm going to focus what's probably about 3 minutes left on those 2 elements, starting with our successful phase 2. So I just want to share some of that data with you. We've shown very clearly that we have a very rapid onset after 30 minutes, which was the first time point that we measured. We saw that 81% of patients had at least 2-line improvement, with 55% of patients reporting 3 lines or even more. We also showed a very long duration. 7 hours was actually the last time point that we measured. We will go longer in our upcoming studies. But after 7 hours, still about half of the patients had that 2 lines of improvement, about a quarter, 3 lines of improvement. What's also important to note here is that we run our trials very well placebo-controlled, so you see very low placebo effects, which makes the data very robust. Our data follows the pupil size very well, so just briefly here you see that over that 7 hours, patients' pupil sizes remain in that 1.5 to about 2 millimeter of diameter. So shifting now to having shown that the product works, it very clearly improves near vision for the vast majority of patients. Why is that avoidance of the ciliary muscle so important? As mentioned, that causes the myopic shift, and preaching the choir here that as little as a 1 diopter of change has a very significant effect. That's basically the difference between going from perfect distance vision 20/20 to no longer passing the driver's test, or getting those side effects that we all want to make sure that we avoid. There's quite a bit of independent research done on the different myotics, and I'm going to show you 2 pieces. This first one looked at what's called EC50, so what's the half maximum concentration that you need to get the maximum effect, and without taking you through all the data, they measured that both on the iris sphincter as well as on the ciliary muscle. The larger the difference between the 2, or if you correlate them, what we call the independence ratio, so the larger that bar, the more you can actually trigger the iris sphincter without triggering the ciliary muscle. So very clearly that independence ratio for aceclidine compared to the other myotics is much bigger. So we had that advantage of being able to get our effects that we need without triggering the ciliary muscle. A second independent piece of research actually looked at this in vivo. So 2 patient groups, gave them a concentration needed to get to about a 1.5 millimeter or a diameter, pupil diameter, and then looked at that myopic shift. So if you focus on the top one here, the diopter in change, you see that aceclidine hardly caused any change in refraction, where the others clearly did that. So they got in that range of 1 diopter and had a significant impact on distance vision. So coupling that back in my second to last slide to the data that we saw in our phase 2, that clearly supported what the theory predicted. We saw no impact in distance vision, actually saw a slight trend both in low luminance as well as in normal photopic conditions, with very minimal side effects. So closing out, we have a first and only aceclidine-based eye drop. Very important to realize is that this is a novel and heavily patent-protected ingredient, so it's unique to the company. We've shown that it very rapidly and for a long duration improves distance near vision, no impact on distance vision, and a very good safety profile, which comes through in our discussions with the FDA. So with that, thank you for your attention. I think we got time for a question or two.
Yeah, thank you so much. And welcome to ophthalmology. We're happy to have you, and you'll never want to leave. John, so it looks like, pupil modulation is where a lot of presbyopia companies are going, and not to differentiate between the different products, but assuming similar efficacy, what aren't patients going to tolerate? Are they not going to tolerate brow ache? Are they not going to tolerate redness? Are they not going to tolerate a decrease in distance vision? Are they not going to tolerate any of it? Which one do you not want to have when we're taking these eye drops?
Yeah, so presbyopia is an early symptom of what eventually becomes cataract. And so among patients who are developing early cataract, having a small pupil may be problematic for some of them. So I think those on the older end of the age scale potentially may be more problematic. I don't know if you've discovered that in your trial. These are presumably eyes that have no cataract, but that's probably number one. If we decrease vision overall, even if we can pick up lines of near acuity, what good does that do us, right?
So don't change distance vision, number one.
That's right. And I think, if you look at the 8 different companies who are coming out with presbyopia products, about 4 of them are pilocarpine products, but they're very different pharmacology. And I think what we'll find out is that the formulation is at least as important as the pharmacology in differentiating these products as they come to market. We don't know which ones will do better, which ones won't do as well, but it will depend upon those factors, won't it?
Great. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Thank you.
All right, next up from Ocuphire, Mina Sooch. Thank you.
So good afternoon, and thanks to the organizers for having Ocuphire, especially since just a few weeks ago we had some late-breaking phase 2 data for presbyopia. We are a recently public company, so we will be making some forward-looking statements, and we trade as OCUP on the NASDAQ. Who is Ocuphire before I get into presbyopia? We're a 3.5-year-old company that's a late-stage ophthalmic story with assets for front and back of the eye. We have Nixol, our eye drop, as well as APX3030, which is an oral tablet for the retina with a novel mechanism of action that's anti-VEGF and anti-inflammatory, going after phase 2 trial as we speak in diabetic retinopathy. So then moving back up to Nixol, we have 3 indications we're working on. Presbyopia, which we'll talk about in a moment. Night vision, or the halos and glares. We have a phase 3 study ongoing. And we recently also, earlier this year, reported out positive phase 3 data on reversal of mydriasis, or reversing dilation, and we're moving forward aggressively to do a second phase 3 and to file an NDA next year with the same concentration of Nixol we'll be using in presbyopia. So Nixol, 0.75% is our concentration, and unlike all the other players, what's unique for us is that we're working on the other muscle that controls your pupil, which is the iris dilator muscle. And Nixol is phentolamine mesylate, or an alpha-1 blocker, and those alpha receptors are on that muscle, and by relaxing or inhibiting them, we sort of create a moderate miotic, about 1 to 1.5 millimeters pupil diameter reduction. It's also 24-hour durability. It's very well tolerated in over 9 clinical studies that we've conducted with Nixol, and it's preservative-free and stable. So a lot of great attributes as a standalone. But for presbyopia, we needed to get to a pinhole. In our minds, that pinhole on the surface should be closer to 2 to 2.5 to avoid any loss of vision at night or with less light. So we chose pilocarpine, like others, but at a fractional dose of 0.4% to dial out those side effects, but get another contributor to the pupil diameter reduction. So with that, we ran a phase 2 Vega 1 trial, 17 sites in the United States, over 150 subjects recruited in less than 3 months. So thanks to any investigators out there that were on the trial. We had 4 arms. You go home and you take either Nixol or placebo in a blinded fashion for 3 nights in the evening because of our 24-hour effect. And then when you come in for visit 2, you're given low-dose pilo or no treatment. And then we studied the effects of the combo versus the components and placebo. By the way, we have very broad inclusion criteria as well. The data, here's our primary endpoint. We had 61% responders against 28% on placebo. And so the placebo-corrected number is 33%. And you'll see we also had a really nice response on 10 letters, all highly statistical. If you look at the same data by time, I'd note the 30-minute data. Now the spread, instead of 33%, is closer to 50% response rate and a very fast onset. You'll see the same data at 2 hours, and then you'll see the durability out to 6 hours. Looking at the combo, this is actually the approvable FDA primary endpoint. It's a co-primary. You take the 15-letter gain, but you also subtract any patients who might have lost 5 letters or more. We didn't actually have any patients that lost 5 letters or more for the most part, so essentially the data looks the same. And if you look at 30 minutes and the 2-hour data, you'll see that we, again, even though we didn't power for this, we actually achieved power of showing the value of the combo against the components. And then we also had really great pupil diameter data that fully supports the thesis. So if you look carefully for a moment, the gray is placebo, straight across, no change. The green is the combo, the lowest of all. And the blue is Nixol. Nixol consistently gives you 1 to 1.5 millimeters reduction all day long. And you can take it as needed. It'll work in 15 to 30 minutes, but we like the convenience of the evening dosing. And with that safety, we had 0% headaches or brow ache, as expected, given Nixol doesn't do that, and we had a low dose of Pilo. We saw very little mild transient redness, about less than 5%, and again, no distance loss in photopic and mesopic conditions. And so with that, you've heard a lot of these attributes. We'll discuss those. We feel we check each of the boxes from efficacy to safety to durability to tunability, so that you can take the 2 drops and get it to work exactly as you want every day, with or without your reading glasses as well. And with that, I'd like to say we're going to advance our phase 3 program next year, file an NDA the year after, and we've got 2 presentations as well at ASCRS, one alongside Allergan at their session at 8:45, along some of their abstracts, and then our reversal of mydriasis phase 3 data on Monday at 4:25 by Dr. J. Pepose. With that, I'll take questions.
Very good. So Gil, why now with presbyopia? So pilocarpine's been around for basically ever. Acetylidine actually has been around for a while, approved in Europe. Nixol not in the eye, but these things have been around. We've known that they cause pupil modulation, so why is all of this coming to a confluence now?
Well, it's always a mystery how innovation happens. It kind of moves and fits and starts. But it does seem like, I would say, part of it is we've been working on presbyopia for a long time, but with different technologies, none of which have really been what we want them to be. So I think in sort of searching other horizons, it brought back to light the potential for pilocarpine. And I think to previous discussion, there have been some maybe advances in the formulation, because I think as a fugitive ophthalmologist myself, you never like giving pilocarpine for glaucoma because it has a lot of side effects, but at the much lower dose and then with some formulations, we could get around that. So I think it's sort of an idea that maybe as time has come. I would say, though, on the flip side, it does have some issues that are being highlighted by the speakers, which are the issues with small aperture optics and the side effect. And those are things that really need to be changed to make it a commercial success. But I can't wait. You guys need to do this faster. I'm getting older. Yeah. I need a solution to this. So we need faster innovation.
Thank you so much, Mina. Great job. Next up, Elad Kedar with Orasis. And to your point, Gil, Vance, who's my partner in the ophthalmology business, we've got a bet. Whoever puts on readers in public first has to buy the other couple dinner anywhere in the world. And so you all saw him put them on up here at the beginning of the case, at the beginning of the day. All right, Elad.
Okay, hello, everybody. So, more than 5 years ago, the Orasis story started literally with an idea on a piece of paper. And since then, it has been quite a journey with a singular focus, patients. Cracking the code on what patients would actually look for in an optimal solution for presbyopia, and then going and developing a product that would actually reach that optimum. And now, as we are approaching the finish line, I can share with you that, no, we are not going to bring any new billionaire into space, don't worry about that. But just as a space capsule's final docking maneuver needs to carefully balance across 3 different dimensions, we learned throughout the journey that also for a presbyopia solution to meet patients' expectations, it would need to optimally balance across 3 dimensions as well. And the whole journey of Orasis was devoted to reach that balance. In presbyopia, those dimensions are efficacy, safety, and comfort. And efficacy means improving near vision without compromising distance and night vision. Safety, it's a quality of life product, so there can obviously not be any compromise on safety. And then finally, comfort. It's a product we want people to use on a daily basis. We want them to feel comfortable when they use it. We want them to have the freedom to choose how to use it. So, how did we reach that balance? Well, we iterated, and we tested, and we refined, and we tested again and again until we reached that winning combination. And the core of our formula is low-dose pilocarpine, and to be specific, significantly below the glaucoma range, which is about 1 to 4%. And that is critical for the efficacy, improving near vision without compromising on distance and night vision, and also for the safety and tolerability. But it is far from being the only element. Actually, every other single element in our formula, including our proprietary vehicle, the ingredients, the concentrations, and other formula elements such as a very high pH we're able to achieve, and the fact that this is a preservative-free formula, all of those come together in getting this optimal balance across efficacy, safety, and comfort. So, where are we now? We already completed almost 2 years ago a robust phase 2b study with more than 160 patients and a design that was very similar, in many aspects identical to what we're doing now in our phase 3 studies. And results were really exceptional. On the efficacy side, 3-line improvement, close to 50% success rate, 2-line, 80% success rate with very strong p-value. And also, and not less important, without any compromise on distance and night vision, and even a small trend for improvement in both. And this is because of the combination of our low-dose formula with the mechanism of action increase in depth of field. On the safety, exceptional safety results with very small number of adverse events, all of them mild, temporary, and self-resolving. And we even tested specific tolerability endpoints, such as eye redness and comfort, and the scores there were great as well. Bottom line, a very successful phase 2b that allowed us to move directly into our phase 3 studies. So we are running now 2 studies, NEAR 1 and NEAR 2. Enrollment goes really well, and we expect to complete those studies later this year, and that puts us in a position to be one of the first 2 companies to launch. And to summarize, we heard a lot already about the robust market opportunity, but what makes the Orasis story so unique is the journey we traveled, the journey that allowed us to develop a formula which is by now significantly de-risked, and more importantly, a formula that, thanks to its unique balance across efficacy, safety, and comfort, we believe represent exactly what patients would look for in an ideal solution for their presbyopia. Thank you very much.
Great job, Elad. So to the practicing ophthalmologists on the panel, Preeya, John, Vance, do you believe that this is going to be prescribed mostly by optometry, mostly by ophthalmology?
I think mostly by optometry. I certainly think there's a role within ophthalmology, but a lot of ophthalmologists are not necessarily doing routine care, and I think that this is the nice thing about this space is that anybody can prescribe it. But
it's patient-driven demand, isn't it? Patients are going to be more interested in getting this than we are in prescribing it. And the most accessible eye doctors to them will be optometrists. They're in every large storefront, so it seems likely that they'll be the #1 prescribers.
Vance, you agree?
So I see, being a presbyopic surgeon now, both cornea and lens, that I will be prescribing this a lot. This was where we'll
Wait a second, are you a presbyopia surgeon or a presbyopic surgeon?
a presbyopia surgeon. But when you think about it, one of the reasons lenticular surgery works so well is we're going after the problem, and it's binocular. Our corneal procedures, we're not really going after the problem. That's an exercise in compromise. And I think that's one of the reasons that presbyopia drops are going to be so powerful, is it's a binocular solution for number one, and it's physiologically matches what we do in the near triad, where our eyes turn in, we accommodate, and our pupils get small. And so it's using what nature gave us. And that's why I see me starting the presbyopic journey for my patients with these drops.
Thank you so much, Elad. Great
Thank you.
job. And finally, bringing us home, Ben Bergo with Visus.
Well, thank you for the introduction, John, and it's both a pleasure and honor to be presenting here today as part of Eyecelerator. Visus Therapeutics is a clinical stage company with a lead program in presbyopia. And as you're all aware, and as we've heard today from John at the start of this session, presbyopia is the world's largest ophthalmic indication, with approximately 2 billion patients impacted now, today, this year. And through robust market research we conducted through last year and this year, with 3 separate research firms, and with over 1,500 patients of survey data, we found that duration will be the #1 factor that patients look to when selecting their presbyopia-correcting eye drop. Our lead candidate in presbyopia, Brimochol, is a patent-protected combination of 2 well-known ophthalmic APIs, carbachol and brimonidine tartrate, and this combination has exhibited a unique mechanism of action and extended duration. Formulations of Brimochol have been previously studied in six separate studies by 2 investigators between 2013 and 2019, with over 200 subjects evaluated. 5 of these were studies of visual acuity. 1 of these was a study of intraocular pressure in patients, and 4 of these have been published. Multiple studies have demonstrated a significant improvement in near visual acuity out to 8 hours and beyond in both phakic and pseudophakic patients. And I've got data from just one of these studies to present here today on the right-hand side of this slide. This is a study published in 2019 with 57 phakic emmetropes. These patients were divided into 2 cohorts on 2 different doses. 32 patients received a dose of 2.25% carbachol and 0.2% brimonidine, with the remaining 25 patients receiving a dose of 3% carbachol and 0.2% brimonidine. Patients were measured at baseline, 1, 2, 4, 8, and 12 hours, with 12 hours being the last time point measured. And as we can see, with the pupil size on the top chart and near visual acuity measured on the bottom in Jaeger lines, the patients on the higher dose of carbachol, the 3% dose, are achieving a significant improvement in their near vision out at 12 hours, with a mean improvement from baseline of 5 Jaeger lines at that time point. We made a number of formulation enhancements through 2020. Our development goals are shown on the left-hand side of this slide and the outcomes on the right. Owing to the significant duration we were seeing with the data I just presented from that 2019 published study, and to modulate pupil constriction, we've reduced the level of carbachol from 3% down to 2.75%. To avoid any potential brimonidine-induced allergic conjunctivitis, we've reduced the brimonidine concentration from 0.2 down to 0.1%. And to cater to the needs of dry eye disease patients both in this country and globally, we've developed a preservative-free formulation. And we are studying that preservative-free formulation and our lead formulation of Brimochol with 100 parts per million of BAK, plus a preservative-free formulation of carbachol in our phase 2 study at this time. We've assembled a world-class management team and leadership team at Visus with over 75 years of ophthalmic drug development experience. We raised our Series A in Q1, and we look to read out top line from this phase 2 study at the end of Q3, the end of this quarter. Move quickly into our pivotal studies, and then file our NDA in the second half of this year. Thank you again for the opportunity to present, and it's good to be back in person.
Good job, Ben. Thank you so much. And so, panelists, when we're talking about safety, efficacy, duration, what kind of things go through your mind? Is there different patients that are going to like a longer duration? Is everybody going to want a longer duration? Is everybody going to want a shorter duration? What are your thoughts?
Longer.
Longer?
But not necessarily for everyone.
All right, here we go.
Maybe there, drop the gloves. So, I think there may be patients who want to have enough reading vision that they can read off the menu, and then by the time they're driving home from their evening to not have their pupil too constricted. Some people are going to want, and maybe more, will want to get through an entire workday where 8 to 12 hours of efficacy is important. So, there's probably room for different products on the market that have different efficacy profiles.
Well, and there's no doubt the market is big enough for it, right? And I think that the market itself is going to answer a lot of these questions for us, because it's not going to be an insurance reimbursed product, and so there's going to be pricing considerations, ease of getting the medication considerations, where do you go to get it, the side effect profile, all that, and that's going to play out really interesting in the market, and we're going to be talking about this a lot. So one final thought from each panelist, but before that, I want to thank all of the companies and the presenters for doing such a great job staying on time. It is almost impossible to present your company in 4 minutes, and all of you guys did a beautiful job with that. And then I want to thank you as a future patient. So thanks, everybody. Preeya, parting comment.
Parting comment. I think that through all this great innovation, we're going to learn so much more about presbyopia as a disease. We're talking about what patient needs short-term, what patient needs long-acting drug, and there's so much that we don't know, and I think this is, yes, we're going to be helping patients, we're going to be getting them a lot, of meeting their needs, but we're going to do so much learning through this too.
John.
Smart ophthalmology practices are going to embrace drops for presbyopia. You want access to these patients who are interested in a glasses-free life, whether it's because you want to do their cataract surgery eventually or because you want to offer them some other service that may come along in the meantime. So these patients are your friend. Embrace these products.
Gil.
What I love, I don't think we've ever seen this many companies being willing to go after a non-existent market right now. Usually we have 2 or 3 that are trying to be visionaries. So I think we've got, 8, 9, 10, I've lost count. It's fantastic. They're all very impressive. So I think there's a lot of spaghetti on the wall, and hopefully all of it sticks.
We all want to do what's the safest and most efficacious thing for our patients. And I see, not only as a surgeon starting my patients on this journey, I see gaining their confidence, and I see it growing my presbyopic surgery practice also.
Great. All right, thanks everybody. I think that Gil's going to dismiss us to break. True statement?
And if we could have the music down for a second. I don't want to dismiss anyone, but I would like to thank our panel here. Was fantastic, and all our companies, and again, thank all of you. We're going to go to our break now, and we do need everyone to come back at 3:25 in order to stay on schedule. And we are trying something because we're an innovation meeting. We're trying something new, which is we're going to have a breakout room. So when you come back, you can come back to the amazing sessions we're going to have in this room, led by Eric and Jim. And then I'm going to be doing a 1.0 experiment across the hall here in the Oceanside E room, which is a small room for company presentations that are much more interactive. So we're going to have 11 companies that are going to be presenting 7 minutes each and have a discussion with an investor panel that may focus a little more on some of the financial aspects of these early stage companies rather than clinical. But you're invited to come, but it's a small room, and we have a lot going on in this room. So make your choice at the end of the break, and please come back at 3:25. And thank you again, John, for running a terrific panel. Thank you.